This week's chord is A minor 7. And I'm going to show you a quick A minor 7 that's not this week's chord. It looks something like this. All open on our ukulele, as easy as it gets, right? But that's a little bit too easy. We want to work on a chord that gives a little bit more in the way of richness and fullness to when you're playing an A minor. So what's cool is an A minor 7 adds what we call the seventh of a chord. And if we just count A, B, C, D, E, F, G, it's going to be adding a G note to the A minor. So when we normally play an A minor, it looks something like this. 2, 0, 0, 0. Our middle finger on the second fret of the G string. And this creates an A note. So if we remove that finger, we now have a G note, which is going to be the 7 for A minor 7. But what I like to do on A minor 7 is add a little bit more in the way of taking another familiar shape, which you may have played a G minor chord before. G minor looks something like this. Middle finger on second fret of the C string, ring finger on third fret of the E string, and index finger on the first fret of the A. Right? So that's a G minor. And to make it an E minor, all that we're going to do is go up and then up again. So all that happened here is I moved my ring finger to the 5th fret of the E string, my middle finger to the 4th fret of the C string, and my index finger to the 3rd fret of the A. So the number here is 0, 4, 5, 3. Now this chord is an A minor 7, and it's one of my absolute favorite chords on the ukulele because it really opens up the sound to be very different than if you're playing an A minor 7 down here or an A minor here. And you can use it in place of an A minor more often than not. If the song calls for an A minor 7, you'll know it will work really well. So it's a pretty diverse chord. So let's say that song that we're playing is just going A minor to G. It's a pretty common chord progression. You might normally play your A minor like this, and then your G like this, with your index on the 2nd fret of the C, ring on the 3rd fret of the E, and middle on the 2nd fret of the A. Well, instead of doing that, which sounds like this, I'm going to use this A minor 7 that we're just talking about in place of the A minor. And the way I'm going to do that again is middle finger on the 4th fret of the C, ring finger on the 5th fret of the E, and index finger on the 3rd fret of the A. Now I'm going to practice switching between this chord and the G. But when we make the switch, it's not going from this to this, but rather going from this to, watch the fingers, this. You'll notice the ring finger never actually has to come off the instrument, which is kind of cool. It creates what we call a pivot point. So when we're actually maintaining the pressure between the two chords, we can very fluidly make the change. So you'll notice our middle and index fingers are going to flip-flop between the C and the A strings as this happens. So this sounds something like this. A minor, in this case A minor 7, to G. Pretty cool sound. So try this A minor 7 anytime you're using an A minor chord and you want it to sound just a little bit different. For more information as well as lessons, check out mattukulele.com. Thanks.